Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the garage. So today we're going to be working on the Civic again, and we're going to be putting in this new stereo head unit. It's a Bluetooth only hands-free set, no CD player, getting a little bit out of date there. So we're just going to be able to get this swapped in real quick, and let's get on working. All right, hey guys, so one of the first things we need to do is make sure that the car is safe to work on. So anytime you're doing anything electrical, always disconnect the battery. So we're gonna go in here and we're gonna pull the negative terminal off. So with me, it's just a 12mm wrench. A lot of other cars will use, 10, 12. You just have to kind of figure out what size is right for your terminals. There we go, and we'll just set that off to the side. Now we're safe to work on electronics. All right, so we're in the car now. So the first thing that we need to do is get the old unit out. So normally with these, you'll have some posts that you can sometimes stick in on the side to pull it out of the rail. Other times you have to rip like half the dashboard out. So let's take a look and see if any of this faceplate can come off. Give us access so we don't have to take as much of the car apart. All right, so I'm just gonna go up here to this trim. Usually these trims just pop off. Oh, holy crap. The whole stereo is coming out. Oh man, check that out. The whole stereo, it wasn't even attached to anything. It was just sitting in there. Oh man, oh, look at this rat's nest. So here you can see that this is literally just twisted wires with electrical tape. Oh man, this is just asking for stuff to short out. So made it easy to pull it out, but man, we got some work ahead of us to clean this up. Got the old unit out. I've got the new unit here, and the part that I was talking about that usually sticks in there is this tray that's on the outside. So the way that you get this off is you can either take this little bit of trim piece off the outside. It's on there pretty good, so I don't want to break it on accident. So what we can do is there's these little click tabs, and all you got to do is stick a screwdriver underneath it, and then it'll slide back and unlock. There we go. Now this is the tray that's actually going to get stuck into the car that the radio will then mount to. So that's what I was talking about, being able to get into the rail. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and get this set up into the car here. Luckily, this is a pretty easy design to get into it. So you want this tray up against the metal on the inside and not against the plastic. But like I said, this is a super easy design to get into. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna take these little tabs here and we're gonna bend them in right into that metal bracket inside in the car there. So there we go. Just take a little screwdriver, super simple. And you just literally push them in, and now that tray is locked into place. That'll help us hold our stereo, and it's not going to rattle out of the dashboard. Or if you're doing a heavy pull, it's not going to come out and smash your hand while you're shifting. One of the things with this, because I don't have the factory wiring diagram, is figuring out where these wires go to, like what speakers they belong to. So nicely enough, on the old head unit, there's the color codes. So as I undo these, I'm going to be tagging the pairs, the positive negatives, to which speaker they belong to. So when I go and put on the new harness, I know which ones to hook up. Now that everything's been labeled, did a quick break and looked it up online of the positive and negatives for all the speakers. Now we start untangling the rat's nest. And here you can see it's literally just twisted wires. All this comes apart. Oh man, electrical tape is the worst trying to pull it off. So we got all of this cleaned out of the car. So you can see all of this is just a huge mess. Now everything is sticky. It's just the worst. It's an electrical hazard, especially when it's something rattling around in your dash. So I'm gonna show you guys how to do some wiring using some sealed connectors that also have a little bit of solder in them, so you can ensure a good electrical connection, and then they're safe from any kind of temperature or moisture exposures. Super easy to do at home and super easy to implement and make things cleaned up and a lot nicer. I know I mentioned the sealed connectors that we're going to use with a little bit of solder in them, but I want to show you the types of options that you'll typically see out there. So obviously you've already seen the electrical tape method, and then there's also these T-tap as well as butt connectors that you'll see a lot of times get used. These are okay to use. If you're not super confident in being able to wire stuff up, these are usually people's first go-to. They're cheap, they're easy, but they're not super reliable. Now, what I will be using are these, the solder seal connectors. And what they are is they have these little sealing O-rings that will melt and seal the connection, as well as this little silver piece in the middle is a little glob of solder. And you can just use a lighter just like you're using heat shrink on them. And these are going to create really great connections and clean everything up. On the side of heat shrink, there are a couple of wires in here that aren't used for our head unit, these two here. So I'll be taking the electrical tape off of that and then replacing it with heat shrink. Now you can also get a bunch of different crazy colors for whatever you want, but I'll just find whatever fits over that, and it'll help protect the wires from shorting out or getting any moisture into them. One of the things that we need to do is we've taken the old stuff out, we've taken a look at it, we figured out how we're gonna connect the new stuff, but what we need is to get rid of all this old junky wire. So I like to just cut off right at the end, just use some regular old wire strippers, pull that off, and now we have real nice fresh wires that we can start making our connection with. So now I'm going to do the same thing, and I'm going to run across the rest of these and clean them up. Let's start with putting a little heat shrink on these two wires that we're not using. You can see at the end of it here, I just chopped them off. I didn't strip them back like the other ones. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to slide this over just a little bit. I'm going to let some overhang, because I'll show you how I get this to stay. So now we have the little end that's loose, fold it over, press it on, and now it kind of seals it up. I'll do the same thing for this one. Get it going. Fold it over, and now those two are protected. With these, now we're getting ready to start actually making the electrical connection. Most of these harnesses will come pre-cut here, so you can just take the excess off. And what you want to do is you want to find one that will thread in enough with not a lot of slop, because this is going to have to shrink down some. And if you set the two wires here and you run them in towards each other, we will have overlap in the center right where the solder sits. So now I'm just going to thread one of these on each wire so I don't forget them. And then we'll start shrinking and soldering. All right, so I'm gonna go off my instructions here, as well as my labels that I have. So we want to find our right front positive to go with this wire here. So our right front positive is solid gray. So here you can see we have the gray with a black stripe on it, and then just a solid gray. So we want our solid gray. I like to twist these together a little bit just to make sure that the heat shrink and the solder will slide over. There we go. Now we have the solder right over top of where that joint is. So the trick with this, and I'm going to try to not set my little tag on fire, is you want to start from the ends. Get a little fire. Start from the ends here, shrink those in, and then get that solder ball nice and warm. And now you can see it kind of wets down into that joint. And now we have a nice sealed and soldered joint, and we're going to move on and do the same thing to the rest of the connections. Another way that you can do the heat shrink on this is with a heat gun. So that's what I'm going to do on these. There we go. Now we have a nice clean joint. With everything now all nice and connected, sealed, protected, it's not coming out of here anymore. Now I can start getting everything to look pretty again. So I'm going to push the wiring back into the factory loom here. Just keep everything protected, keep it all together. There we go. And then it wouldn't be a Honda without a couple zip ties. So here we go. We're going to get a couple of these bundles here, and just to keep it nice and easy to fish these through the car. Doesn't need to be overly tight, but just enough to keep them in place. So what we'll need to do is fish this back into the dashboard, bring it back up where the radio is going to meet. This is the antenna cable, so we'll do the same thing. Push that in. And now we can grab our head unit and plug them in. So this one here goes in the bottom. This one goes in the top. And then our antenna plugs in over at the large hole. Make sure everything's nice and seated. Now that everything is connected and put together, our stereo is pointing up in the right direction, right orientation. We don't have it upside down. Now we can slide it into this tray, and remember those little clips that we had to open up to get the tray out? Now that's what's going to help retain this. So we're going to slide that back in, make sure we don't pinch any of our cables. And there we go. With the stereo now installed, and we got the little trim piece in there, this was definitely built for a different stereo. So for now, that's just going to have to sit in there. But let's see if we catch the car on fire or we get some sound. Nice. Looks like we're getting power to the unit. Let's see if we get some audio. Oh yeah.
Before we get demonetized.
Yeah. There we go. We now have a fully functional radio in the car. All I got to do now is just set up my Bluetooth, hands-free, we're ready to roll. So that does it for our radio install for the day. Everything went as expected for the most part. Doing radios is always really weird because you never know what the last guy did and the quality work that was done. One thing that was kind of nice is it was just electrical tape and twisted wire, made it super easy to take apart, but that probably also explains why the previous owner told me that the radio never worked right. It was always resetting and never doing stuff right. Most likely because there was really bad electrical connections, and two, things were probably shorting out in there. Mostly because the car was bouncing around a lot and nothing was mounted in the dash. So we went ahead and we cleaned all that up. We fixed that. We put some nice connections in there that have solder joints. They're sealed. We put in the mounting tray, so everything's nice and solidly mounted. We've already verified that all of the speakers work and sounds great. So I'm looking forward to the next installs with y'all, and we'll see you in the next video. Be sure to leave a comment down below if you have any questions, and like and subscribe. Thanks, guys.